Hello and welcome to Get Booked. I'm Jennifer and we have a new special guest star today.
I'm Kate. I'm the director of the library.
She's the big boss. So, we are talking today about a whole new bingo square this year. What is today? It's just like, this month we're talking about mysteries. So we have a whole bunch of different squares. We have foodie mysteries, cozy mysteries, husband and wife in the title, young adult mysteries, but today we're talking about first in series. And Kate is like me and she got a whole load of books. So, you get to go first.
Okay. I really wanted to recommend this one. It's Midnight Riot by Ben Arronovitch. For those of you who love paranormal stuff or Doctor Who, he was Arronovitch was a writer for Doctor Who. And this series begins with young Peter Grant, who is a London cop, and he is just standing guard over a murder site when a ghost shows up and tells him that he witnessed the murder and he can help him out with the crime. So because Peter can observe supernatural things, he is inducted into the very special, super secret, supernatural police unit with the London police. And it's a great series and it makes lots of little comments about Harry Potter, and you could sum it up as Harry Potter joins the police force. I love this series. Midnight Riot.
That sounds really fun.
It is.
My first is Clammed Up by Barbara Ross. And I should mention that my first three are actually part of the books that the Friends of the Library purchased for our book bingo collection. So they have a fun book plate in them. Don't know where that one is right now. So this one is set in Maine. It is a clam bake series. They have a family who has a clam bake on an island that they own. And, of course, there's a dead body that turns up. And
As always.
As always. And the girl, Julia, who has come back from New York City, has come back to small town Maine, and she's trying to figure it out who the murderer is, and she's trying to save her family clam bake business.
Great. That sounds really fun. The next book I want to talk about is the #1 Ladies Detective Agency. This is a wonderful series by Alexander McCall Smith. There's over 20 books in the series, so if you really like to take a deep dive into a series, this is one of the series to go with.
That's a long series.
It is a long series. What I particularly love about this series is its setting. It's set in Botswana in Africa, a country that we probably don't know much about. And it is, these stories are very well written, well crafted, and they really give you a feeling for the landscape and the culture and the society, and it's really a wonderful, warm series. And HBO did a short 3 or 4 episode series that encompassed some of the stories of the first couple of books. So, the #1 Ladies Detective Agency, just a wonderful treat, very relaxing, very happy.
Cool. My next one is An Appetite for Murder, and this is by Lucy Burdette, who is half a Connecticut author and half a Key West author. And it actually does take place in Key West, and there's a food critic, and her name is Haley Snow, and she's kind of on the younger side. She's like a 20-something, which you don't always see in cozies. And she first goes down to Key West. She follows a boy. That ends terribly, of course. And she's in that really tight spot. He's kicked her out of the apartment, and there's a death, there's a murder, and she's suspected.
Oh.
She's the first suspect, so she's like, oh, I gotta figure out what happened and clear my name, and also figure out what I'm gonna do in my life. Am I gonna stay in Key West? Am I gonna go back home? She ends up being a food critic, and it's really fun. So this, actually, I forgot to tell you, this is a book with recipes. This also has some recipes and a lot of food. So if you like food, those two are really great.
That's great. One of my all-time favorite series that I recommend to people over and over again is the Maisie Dobbs series. And what I love about it, I'm a big fan of historical fiction, and I just love the historical setting of this book. It starts before World War I, when Maisie is a young maid in a mansion in London, and she's caught reading books in the library, and instead of being angry at her and firing her, which would be unjust and wrong, her employers decide she must have brains and decide to educate her. And so with that backstory, this kicks off a series. She serves in World War I as a nurse, and the series initially solves mysteries that have something to do with the events of the First World War. But over time, we've been following Maisie for many years now, and there's like, I think, 14 books now? Something like that. Yeah, something like that now. Now we're actually in World War II, and these are great stories, great read, wonderful setting. If you like a real sweep of history, you have sort of a Downton Abbey situation going all the way up to World War II, and wonderful, very well-crafted series. A real favorite.
I've been wanting to read those forever.
Oh, well, then you just take that home tonight.
All right, my next one is Ellie Alexander, Death on Tap. So I actually haven't read this one yet. I've read her other series, The Tort Bakery, and I love it. So I thought, oh, this is going to be really good. It's set in Washington and...
D.C. or the state?
No, the state.
Okay.
Leavenworth, Washington. And it's about a brewery. So you're going to get lots of different, I'm guessing, pub tips and recipes with what goes well with beer. Nice appetizers. So again, another small town, charming series. I am really looking forward to this one because as I said, I loved her other series.
Right. Cool. This is just a quick one. This is the start of a series, the Lady Emily series, and Only to Deceive. They're set in the late 19th century in London. She's a young aristocratic widow, and she is also suspected of murder and has to clear her name. So a great kickoff to a series that's, I think, about 10 books now.
I've been wanting to read that one too. I read a lot of mysteries, but there's never enough time to read all the books you want to. Alright, I've got James Patterson and Marshall Karp. So, I read James Patterson on the planes because he makes plane rides go by like this. Because he writes really short chapters, there's always a lot of action. NYPD Red is a favorite series. I also read the private series. So NYPD Red is NYPD, but the red part is there's sort of crimes that have happened to like the elite. So like your celebrities and your sports people and, you know, the really wealthy have like kind of their specialty crime unit sort of. So there's I forget the guy's name. Zach Jordan is the main guy, and he has a partner, Kylie, and they have a little bit of a history that's romantic and not romantic, and so there's a lot of like partner stuff, but there's also a lot of fun crime.
That's great.
Fun crime. Crime's not really fun, but it's kind of fun to read, I guess is what I mean.
This is actually several books into a wonderful series, the Mary Russell series. The first book in the series is called The Beekeeper's Apprentice, and it's a book I really like to put into the hands of teenagers because Mary Russell is 15 years old in the first book, and she meets Sherlock Holmes, and they strike up a friendship, and that book is just a wonderful read. And now there's a series that I think is, again, like maybe 12 books, maybe more. It's been in print for a long time. So late, actually it's all early 20th century. We're in the 20s in the most recent books. And just a lot of fun. And Sherlock Holmes is a continuing character. So if you like Sherlock Holmes and you want to find out what happened to him in the rest of his life, the Mary Russell series is wonderful.
Nice. Why don't you go again? You have a couple.
Okay, I do. So some of you may be familiar with a BBC series that's shown on Masterpiece called Grantchester. And I brought you 2 books because sometimes you don't actually get the first book until much later in a series. So the first book that was published is called Sidney Chambers and the Shadow of Death. And that kicks off the series. And the most recently published book is called The Road to Grantchester, which is not a mystery. There's one little slight mystery that happens and is wrapped up in about 3 chapters in this book, but the whole rest of it is Sidney Chambers' backstory. And he serves in World War II, so it's about his experience in Italy and his friendships and how he becomes called to become a clergyman, and really is a wonderful historic depiction of World War II. The rest of the series starts in the early 50s when he's serving in a church and is familiar with the mysteries. And one thing I'd like to note about this series is that the TV series, that if you've watched it, the mysteries in the books are actually different than the mysteries in the TV series after about the second episode. So what I'd like to say is I recommend this because there's no spoilers.
That's a very good point. So Mary Higgins Clark is a really big favorite of mine. I started reading her in 7th grade. And I stopped a little bit along the way because I've kind of like read them all, and sometimes when you read the same author you kind of like understand where their mind goes and you're like, oh, I can tell who the person is. So I took a little bit of break and then I came back. She has a new series with Alafair Burke, and it starts off with the Cinderella murder, and this is about a woman who is creating like this true crime TV show, and so they take a season and they look at one murder or one crime, and they have been unsolved, and so they try to solve it on air.
Okay.
Well, it airs later, obviously.
Like a cold case kind of thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's really interesting. You get a lot of interrogations from different people because they're trying to figure out what happened. And sometimes they do solve the crimes.
Oh, that's great.
So it's fun.
Great. And then I wanted to recommend Kate Atkinson is a really interesting author. She writes some mysteries, and this is the first in a series. It's called Case Histories, and it's about Jackson Brodie is our detective, and they're set in Scotland in contemporary days, so not a historical. Contemporary. They're very, very engrossing and engaging, and there's the case histories. There are 3 murders, and over time you learn that they're linked, but it's very surprising. And she's an excellent writer, wonderful language, and very, very engaging. My book club loved this book when we read it years ago, and it's the first in, and I think there's 4 Jackson Brodie books now.
Nice. Yeah. My second is kind of another plain type book. Janet Evanovich and Lee Goldberg, they've created the Heist series. And again, a lot of quick chapters, very funny, lots of sexual tension. So Nick Fox is a thief, and Kate O'Hare is an FBI agent, and she is supposed to track him down. She finally tracks him down, and the FBI makes him a deal, and they are now stuck working together while they take down other big con artists and people like that. So he always is trying to, of course, bend the rules, and she's kind of a strict rule person, but, you know, that kind of goes out the window. Her dad is an ex-SEAL, I think, and he has some interesting people that pop up in a lot of the different books. You know, we have a specialized driver, and there's a weapons person, and so it's a lot of fun. I think the 6th or 7th book just came out called The Bounty. That was really fun too.
See, I've been reading Janet Evanovich for years, and I've never read this series.
I'm a big Stephanie Plum fan, and you do get like that sexual tension that she's really good at. Again, the short chapters, she's just really funny too. So,
yeah. I always love her.
I love her too.
Love her humor.
She is great. Alright, that's it for us for First of Series. We will see you next week and talk about something different.
Great.